So the Chiefs not only had one of the best drafts in the entire NFL, but they are also keeping 2 key players around for even longer, which means it's all coming together at the perfect time once again. So I've got to dive into several reasons why we should be excited about these draft picks via some behind-the-scenes thoughts from the team, look at why the decision the Chiefs made today was the right one, and more. But first, how about those? All right, first up, the Chiefs' Director of Player Personnel and College Scouting, Ryan Nutt, spoke with the media yesterday and was very excited about them being able to get offensive tackle Josh Simmons. They thought Josh was one of the better tackles in this draft. You could argue he was the best tackle in this draft, but there's the injury, and then his lack of experience compared to some of the others is where you could make a case to have him top 3 rather than the top spot. He's pretty elite, though, in their eyes, especially in pass protection. And with KC passing the ball the majority of the time, they felt good about Simmons in his run blocking, but great about his footwork and overall talent in pass pro. He's gotten better every year, flipping from right tackle to left tackle after the 2022 season. And the only reason they have him on the team right now is obviously because of that knee injury. So that's a blessing and a curse because, of course, they don't wish injuries upon anyone, and he did fall in the draft because of it. Now, if you compare the last few years of tackles with Josh Simmons, they still think he ranks up there with the best of them, and Ryan also shrugged off the arm length worries, saying they had his arms measured around 34 inches. They measured Simmons personally when they brought him in for his top 30 visit, and that was much closer to his pro day measurement than what they actually measured at the NFL Combine. Regarding their second-round pick, defensive tackle Omar Norman-Lott, Ryan said that he's got some similarities to Turk Wharton. He's bigger and not as fast, but their play style is similar, and obviously with Turk gone now, that was a no-brainer get for them, especially considering Norman-Lott was 99th percentile in terms of his pass rush win rate. That's what they need, a guy that can rush the passer from the interior alongside Chris Jones. Omar has a very high motor, was highly productive and highly disruptive in the semi-limited reps that he was out there on the field, but they see a ton of potential in his game with the optimism that defensive line coach Joe Cullen will help take him to the next level. Ryan then explained that these guys kind of normally go pretty quick in the draft, and they had a list of 4 or 5 guys they would love to take with their second-round pick if available, one of them being Omar. Well, by the time they got there, Norman-Lott was one of the top guys left. That, combined with the need for more interior D linemen, made this an easy choice for them at that spot. Now, of course, many around Chiefs Kingdom, including myself, initially was a bit surprised at how early they took Omar Norman-Lott, considering he's been a rotational player in college. Well, that's what Tennessee does. They rotate a bunch of guys in and out along the D line to keep them fresh. Charles Goldman of A to Z Sports pointed out that the Vols had 8 interior defensive linemen in 2024 that played 200 or more snaps. Only one guy had under 200, with their leading defensive tackle along the line being Dominic Bailey, who played 416 snaps. Norman-Lott, for comparison's sake, played 239. So while yes, he hasn't truly been tested with a heavier workload, they clearly think he can work up to that no problem. Now, regarding cornerback Noel Williams out of California, they traded up for him because of his ball skills and instincts. He consistently sets himself up to make plays, and another player back there in the cornerback room, a definite weakness for them last year after trading away L'Jarius Sneed and Jalen Watson getting injured, made a lot of sense for them. Speaking of cornerbacks, before I get to some very interesting takeaways, including info on wide receiver Jalen Royals and running back Brashard Smith, the Chiefs picked up the 5th-year option of both cornerback Trent McDuffie and defensive end George Karlaftis today. They had until May 1st to do so they were cutting it close, but obviously got it done. And honestly, this was a no-brainer move for both players, because even if a long-term deal isn't able to get worked out, that means the Chiefs will still have Trent McDuffie and George Karlaftis around for 2 more years. For McDuffie, he's going to cost just $13.6 million on his 5th-year option. That's an absolute steal, considering the highest paid corner in the NFL is making $30 million a year right now. Then for Karlaftis, his 5th-year option is going to cost the team $15.1 million. And when you have the top edge rushers in the market now at $40 million a year, this is peanuts in comparison. Both of these guys are fully guaranteed and means they are tied through the team until the 2027 offseason, but I would think KC tries to get a deal done with at least one of these guys here before the start of the actual season. That's around when they extended Harrison Butker, Creed Humphrey, and Noah Gray last year. All of these extensions took place within about 6 weeks of each other from the very beginning of August to the first 10 or so days of September. Well, if I had to choose one player, I think trying to get a long-term deal done with Trent McDuffie makes a lot of sense, sense, and it would actually make him the first defensive back the Chiefs have drafted and signed to a second contract since safety Eric Berry. McDuffie is just that good, an all-pro through and through, and one of the best slot players in the business. He can obviously play outside at a high level as well, and that's part of what makes him so valuable, his versatility. Now, it's worth noting that McDuffie has the same agent as Trey Smith, so as soon as Trey Smith, hopefully, fingers crossed, gets a long-term deal done before the July 15th deadline, his agent Jimmy Sexton can go from negotiating for one of his players to another in Trent McDuffie. Both of those guys are well worth it, and to be clear, I also think George Karlaftis is a great player. I'm just saying if I had to choose one, I would probably go McDuffie. The good news here is a long-term deal getting done with both of these guys is not off the table, and if the Chiefs want to try and get something done with George Karlaftis this offseason, it would definitely save them money rather than them waiting. I don't think he would be paid like a top edge rusher, maybe $20 to $25 million a year. I'm not saying they can afford that and they will do it, but it's definitely not out of the realm of possibilities. I mean, Karlaftis had 83 pressures in 2023 and 76 in 2024, both of which led the defensive end room by quite a bit. He's also got that former water polo background, batting down 15 passes from the line in his 3 years as a Chief. So you combine that with him racking up 24.5 sacks in the regular season, 8 more combined in the playoffs, and George is averaging nearly 11 sacks a year. So, yeah, let's hope he stays around for years to come, because on top of all that, George literally just turned 24 years old, so the best is yet to come. Someone else the Chiefs are hoping the best for is their newest pass rush addition in defensive end Ashton Gelati out of Louisville. KC's director of player personnel and college scouting, Ryan Nutt, said that Gelati plays 100 miles an hour, has crazy power, and can knock tackles back like nobody's business. Speed and power moves, he's got him. It's kind of funny because the way he describes Gelati reminds me a lot of George Karlaftis, and it's even funnier when you realize they trained together in some capacity in the offseason. Next up, let's talk about Kansas City's newest wideout, Jalen Royals, because Ryan went on to say that his game is very similar to that of Rashee Rice. He's got big, strong hands and is very good after the catch. I believe I heard from an Underdog podcast that 33% of the passes thrown his way in 2024 at least were on screens, and considering he has the fastest 10-yard split of any receiver in this draft class, that makes a lot of sense and should give KC another unique weapon to utilize on offense in a few different ways. You can get the ball in his hands quickly or use him downfield as well. His route running needs a little refinement, but they felt the same way about Rice when they drafted him, and he turned out pretty good, so I'm not too worried about that at this point in time. I also found it interesting that Ryan touched on the fact that Rice is still working back from injury, and of course, he didn't say this part, but of course Rice could also potentially be facing a suspension at some point in time, and he made it seem like they could use Royals in the Rashee Rice role. I kind of hope they don't do that, at least full-time, and they also try and utilize him as an outside receiver, but I understand when Rice is out or not playing, somebody needs to step into that role. Rice is looking pretty good out there, though, by the way, with Mahomes saying he's had no limitations when they're out there working together in Texas, and on top of that, Rice shared some workout footage today of him training, and that knee is looking pretty darn good. Now, a former receiver turned running back is someone they had higher on their board than where they actually took him in the 7th round, and that is, of course, running back Brashard Smith out of SMU. That's why they traded up for him. Giving up an extra 7th round pick to move up and get him was peanuts for the value they saw in him. They had a mid-round grade on him, so probably like a late 4th or 5th is my best guess, and with the running back class being so deep, that helped them be able to get him as late as they did. It seems like they were looking to go running back with the 5th round pick they had, but they had linebacker Jeffrey Bossa as a guy that was pretty high up on their board for where he was, so a lot of value there, and that's why Veach and company traded up to go and get Bossa. They were shocked he was still there and available, so instead of taking a running back in the 5th round, they went and got Bossa and then focused up on getting a running back in the 7th round. That's why going into the draft with the roster in such a good place is the way to go. You can identify draft steals along the way, and they definitely got one in Bossa, kind of like what they got in 4th round safety Jaden Hicks the year prior. Ryan said that Bossa is an athletic, instinctive linebacker and has a little Nick Bolton in him. He's at the right place at the right time, is super sharp, and they value smart linebackers in their system, and that is, quote, a premium. Obviously, it's worth noting that Bossa is a converted safety, kind of like Drew Tranquil, so he's going to be a better coverage linebacker than Nick Bolton will probably ever be, so it's not an apples-to-apples comparison. But let's pivot back to Brashard Smith. because Ryan said his ability to play a role on offense this year and not just on special teams, which will most likely happen because that 4.3940 is real and he's returned a bunch of kickoffs in his career. But regarding him being able to play on offense, it's difficult to learn. They will find ways to get him on the field no matter what that role looks like, though, his rookie year, whether it's a small or large capacity. I also liked hearing this. Brashard only played running back 1 year in college, yes, so I had a little bit of concern there, but he grew up playing running back, Pee-wee football, middle school, and even in high school. He was dynamic enough in high school speed-wise that he was used as a receiver and returner as well, but I liked hearing that he didn't just switch to running back for the first time in his entire life for the 2024 college season. Listen to this. The inspiration for Brashard to switch over to running back at SMU was actually because of Isaiah Pacheco, which was the pitch SMU's coach made to get Brashard to transfer over from Miami. So now he joins the same running back room as the guy who inspired his transition to running back his last year in college in the first place, which I found to be pretty cool. They also see elements of Kadarius Toney and Brashard's run after catch ability, being able to set players up to make them miss. We all know how dangerous Toney was with the ball in his hands when he actually caught it, so that definitely made my eyebrows raise a bit when that was said. Brashard's athleticism and talent is definitely there, so now it's about getting him to learn that playbook and get him ingrained into the system. That's the case for every rookie and or every first-year player, so there's no surprise there, but you guys got to let me know your thoughts on which draft pick you are most excited about to see out there this season, and then let me know your thoughts on the idea of a long-term deal getting done with both George Karlaftis and Trent McDuffie. If you had to pick just one, who would it be? But hopefully it's obviously both. And until next time, let's go. Let's freaking go. How about those?